Know your geology. Whether it be you living in the hilly inland areas or on the coastline, the geology as well as the surrounding geography shapes the geohazards you are actually going to be experiencing or you will have to contend with. Similarly, the risk level will be somewhat linked to the underlying geology. Some basic tips for the general consumer. Before you invest or build, or even if it's a case where you're in the stage of investing slash building, or even if you have already invested or built your properties, consult with geologists. So you can consider, in Jamaica's case, the Mines and Geology Unit. There, the personnel can provide you with an overview of the underlying geology through the maps as well as the geohazards. And from that kind of a consult, you can then have a better idea as to how to actually retrofit or to apply whatever engineering considerations or applications towards mitigating whatever degree of hazard slash risk you can actually be faced with. And again, this information, you can get this through consultation with Mines and Geology. It should pretty much be at a minimal cost. Geology and environmental geography considerations, as well as tips for the general public. In terms of the environmental geography, we are feeling it and we are seeing it every day. The warmer temperatures if you're in the tropical regions, and in terms of winters, the harsher cold winters if you're in the much more northern regions of the world. Similar to that, we can consider a greater intensity of hurricanes, or in the event of rainfall, rainfall intensity is much more. So, as such, flooding is much more a reality, especially for some areas, let's say in Jamaica, that would have not been experiencing flooding on such a frequency relative to, let's just say, 15, 20 years ago, that is. Droughts. We can't leave out the droughts. This too is an element of the environmental change that we are experiencing. So, similarly, we will see where there are areas that would not have been experiencing droughts of this kind of an intensity or frequency or duration actually taking place. An example, again, in Jamaica's case, would be Portland, which is considered as the rainiest parish of Jamaica. This parish is also experiencing droughts or a greater likelihood and intensity of droughts. So the environmental geography has a part to play in terms of how it actually, let's say, adjusts the geology. So if you're going to think about where you're living in reference to, let's just say, a hilly area, you have to know your geology. Just to let you understand, in the context of, let's just say, engineering, if you want it to be a case where you want to experience a less likelihood of landslides or rockfall, then let's just say fresh rocks or fresh outcrops that are not highly cracked is a good place to be. However, if it's a case that you are in areas, let's just say, where you can see these cracks in the rock face, then that's an indication that that body is somewhat weathered and or has a greater chance of failing or experiencing landslide relative to an area that does not have those cracks or joints present. Additionally, if you are residing in hilly areas where you can see where the rocks, as you touch it or get close to it, it breaks apart. Or you are seeing where it's predominantly dirt when you are looking at hill face. That's a sign that the area already is experiencing a high degree of weathering. In other words, it's going to be relatively easier for that area to experience landslide. Very quickly, if you reside in areas of carbonate, or what is generally known by the public as limestone, then you have to consider the hazards of subsidence or caving in, wherein which pretty much is as if to say that your home sinks underground or falls into a bottomless pit. So, in that respect, consideration should already be made for engineering application to reduce the likelihood of land slippage, such as retaining walls, gabion baskets, so to speak. If you are also in a hilly area, and let's just say that you are living in an area that is relatively flat, or you can see where you have hills to your right, hills to your left, or you're surrounded by hills, but you are somewhat in a flat area, understand that that zone can experience flooding. So, an example of this area would be the New Market area in St. Elizabeth, where what is basically existing is that you are in a basin. So, when all that rainfall come off the hill, it pretty much has nowhere else to go but to settle, which is where you more than likely are living. So, again, the geology, which is pretty much such where the hills are above you and you are in a sinkhole, that has shaped the kind of hazard that you're now experiencing, which is a flooding hazard. And then obviously the frequency of higher intensity rainfall means that your risk level also goes up for experiencing flooding. So this is giving you some insight into the how geology shapes the hazards you can experience, as well as the risk level relating to your area of living and or the properties you are invested in.